What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to talk about question 11 on LeetCode. And the first concept we really need to, there are two main concepts, but the first concept we really need to talk about is two pointers. So what is a two pointer? So I just said 2P because two pointers. And so you usually scan an array using a single for loop, right? It's going to be something like I equals 0 and I is smaller than length. Keep incrementing I or something like that. So you use a for loop to basically go through a whole array. But a two-pointer is the idea that we don't look at a single value each time we have to loop through the array or go through the array. We're going to basically look at two values at a time. In this case, 2, 18. So I'm gonna draw arrows to literally show pointer. We're pointing to 2 and 18. We're gonna keep making these. We're gonna keep pointing to different values. 16 for. I'm gonna keep moving these. And when I draw these, I mean we're keep on pointing to 8 and 12, right? It's gonna be a star here. So we're gonna look at 2, 18, 4, 16, 8, 12, like something like this. So the main idea and the main theory is we're gonna look at two values instead of one. That's the main theory, right? Okay, so next theory we really need to understand is how do we get the max area in a water situation. And when I mean a water situation is like the max amount of water we can contain. So case 1, case 2. Try to look at what are the common points between case 1 and case 2. So in this case, B is bigger in length than A, right? Because this height is obviously longer than this. And say someone's gonna pour water here. We're pouring water tries to fill from the bottom, right? Water keeps on filling, keeps on filling, keeps on filling, keeps on filling until we hit A. And after we hit A, it doesn't really matter anymore because if we keep on filling, the water will pour, water will spill. So the maximum height depends on what? A. Let's look at the second case. We have A and we have B. We keep on filling the water. Someone's going to fill up the bucket tank we have. And we're going to go to where? You guessed it right. We're going to go to B. In this case, A is bigger than B. I'm showing you this because there's a main key idea between these two cases that share a common theme. The total area, the width, is always going to be B minus A, right? But what's the height, right? What is going to be the height? The height depends on not the longer length, but the smaller length, right? The smaller length is always going to be our maximum length we have. So in this case, it's going to be this part. This case, it's going to be this part. So the smaller length actually determines, because if we fill more, then the water will spill. You get the idea? So the maximum height something can have is actually B, right? Because this is the only maximum height we can have. And in this case, it's A, because A is smaller than B, so it depends on A, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is, again, this is the most important part of this question, is the smaller length makes the height. The actual greatest amount of height or max height depends on not the longer length, but on the smaller length. So now, since we learned what two pointers are and how to get the max height, we're gonna actually try to solve question 11 together, okay? Let's just say this part is going to be A, and this part is going to be B. So, obviously, what's the width? The width is going to be obviously B minus A. In this case, what's gonna be the height? of these two, A and B? Try to guess. Obviously, I hope you guessed it right. The height is going to be 1. Height is going to be what? Height equals 1. Width minus B minus A. So the maximum width will always be B minus A. But why do we have to look at different kinds of lines here? Because we're assuming there might be, we're not assuming there may not be, but we're assuming there might be a value where the height of these two lengths all impact the area more than the width here, right? And this is exactly the case. If we look at the red two lines of here, even though the width smaller compared to A, B minus A, with this red line I draw, the water fills up to here because the length is 7, which is way more bigger than 1, which makes this part the max amount of water we can have in this container, right? So the main idea is we put our 2 pointers A and B at opposite sides, and we keep wanting to get to the middle by moving until these two values meet. Until we meet, we want to keep moving these two values together until they meet at a certain point, and we keep moving the smaller value, right? The smaller value here, A. We're gonna go to here. This and compared to this and this, what's the smaller value? We're going to move the smaller value, which is here. And then here, then here, and then here, and then here, and then here, okay? Because moving, as I told you before, moving the smaller value affects the total area of something, right? And that's the main idea. Thank you. Okay, and now let's move on to the code. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And this is basically, I already wrote the code down for you guys, but the main idea is the language is going to be in C. So int left is equals 0, int right equals height minus 1. So why do we do height minus 1? Because if we have 1, so if we say values 1, 2, and 3, the indexes are obviously going to be 0, 1, 2. That's why we do -1, because computer starts from, you guessed it, right, 0. We have our width, we have our max water, and h. So while left is smaller than right, we have our width. And if height is smaller than height right, we put our h as height left, and else h as height right. And the total is obviously going to be width multiplied by height. And if our total is going to be bigger than our max water, we want that value to be our max water, obviously. And we're trying to and these are the pointers that are going to point. If you see closely in the if statement, you'll see that we're going to try to move the smaller value, as we told before. Because moving the smaller value affects the total area, as I said. And we're gonna return what? We're gonna obviously return max water. Guys, this is not a hard concept if you think about it. What we're trying to do, obviously, is I'm going to tell you one more time. We're obviously, at the end of the day, what makes a max area is basically get the biggest width with the biggest height. But obviously, there isn't one option here where we have the biggest width with the biggest height. So we're going to basically have to look at the whole array. But we can't do 2 for loops here because say we have a for loop like something like looking like this. And I equals, I'm not going to write the full code, but you guys will get the we're gonna write for int j equals I plus 1, and we're gonna like basically loop the whole thing and get the whole, and as we did before, like get if the total is bigger than max water, we're gonna try to get that max water, right? But this won't work because this is in big O theorem, there's going to be O squared. And this is going to be too slow for a computer because in the question, it literally says there are going to be quite some values in the length of the array, right? And another thing you have to understand is we always have to move the smaller length instead of the larger length, right? The smaller length affects the total area instead of the higher length because as I told you guys before, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but if the length of the lower length affects it because if we pour more than the lower length, it will overfill. So the lower length will be the max, right? Guys, if you have any comments, please ask. And this is going to be the code. If you guys want it, I can I'm going to upload this also on LeetCode. And yeah, guys, if you want anything, please ask on the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a great day.